Welcome to our panel on digital and B2B. My name is Sarah Pinto. I am a VC investor here in San Francisco and early in the morning. And I've been an investor in B2B businesses years. So the topic of digitalization is one that I think about a lot from an but we really wanted to bring you the entrepreneur's perspective today. And so we're really lucky to have Alix, Dan, and Olivier here to tell us about living and breathing SaaS software, so digital software to enterprises. It is my pleasure to welcome Alix, Dan, and Olivier. My first question to you, it would be great talk about what your company does, frame your experience for us when you moved here, how long you've been here, and then potentially if you've moved back. So Alix, maybe we'll start with you. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, sure. I'm happy to be with you this morning. So my name is Alix de Sagazan. I am a co-founder and the CEO of A/B Testing. So we are helping a digital team to improve customer experience online through experimentation, more known as A/B testing and personalization. So today at B2B, so we have 900 clients, so enterprise clients and mid-market and SMB clients. We are 230 people, and we have 9 offices around the world. So mostly in Europe, 1 office in APAC, and of course, office in the US. I moved to New York 2 years ago. To grow the business here. So today I have a team of 20 people in the US, quite spread in the US, I would say East Coast, Chicago, Colorado, and mainly in New York. And to be honest, I don't know when I will come back in France. For the moment, I still have a lot of challenges to grow the business of A/B testing here in the US.
Dan, do you want to go next?
Sure. So my name is Dan Amzallag. I'm one of the co-founders of Ivalua. So Ivalua is a SaaS enterprise company, software company specialized in procurement. We serve large companies, mostly above $1 billion revenue. I've been with the company from the very beginning, so almost 20 years ago, and decided to relocate to the US in 2010 to try to develop the company in the US. And it really changed the complete profile of the company. As when we moved to the US, we were a company of less than 50 people, less than $10 million revenue, and today we are 700 people. More than $100 million revenue, and the center of gravity of the company has really shifted from Europe to the US in terms of executive management. Even if Europe is still a very strong pillar of the company, we have basically 300 people in Europe, 300 in the US, and 100 in APAC. So a lot of things happen over the last 10 years, and I'm located in Redwood, close to San Francisco, South San Francisco. Our office is in Redwood City, even if since last March we all work from home, so no office for all.
Yeah, absolutely. Olivier, do you want to as well?
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. My name is Olivier Pin. I am the General Manager for DocuSign France, and within DocuSign Global, I'm leading the product and engineering for international. So how to make sure our products are usable everywhere in the world outside of North America. DocuSign, we are known as being the leader for electronic signature. In the past few years, we've extended to manage the full life cycle of the agreements, from the preparation, everything that happens before the signature, and then everything that is downstream from the signature. And now we are above 5,000 people globally and revenue north of $1 billion. As for me personally, I moved back to France a couple of years ago after spending 9 years in the US, most of them with Salesforce.com in the Bay Area. And so I'm the proud father of a couple of teenagers that keep telling me how much life was better in the Bay Area. So, Alix, when you come back, we'll have a chat.
Well, I'm in New York, I'm in the Bay Area, but
yeah, it's fascinating. Electronic signature to me has my life, and I really struggle to remember the last time I printed a document, signed, scanned it. Visiting, they live in France. I'm here for a week, and my dad has asked me to print documents to sign and scan 4 times already. Like the pen electronic signature, at least in Europe, is a little different, which has been interesting to see.
We're working hard on this. It's getting better.
I can imagine. Okay, so let's go to the first meaty question. Some of you may know Aaron, the CEO of Box. He tweeted earlier this week, Silicon Valley, the next thing the world has fully adopted the last thing. Given how much of the world still has left to be digitized, most markets 10x more opportunity in front of them. So my question is, do you agree with this quote? And where do you think we are in the cycle of that digitization from pen and paper to maybe old on-premise software to really modern digital software? And whoever wants to take the first crack at that, let me know.
Yeah, I can take it. Can try something. So so what we see every day, again, our market is a supply chain, procurement organization, finance organization. What we see today in companies is that digitization is not a question of should we go to digitalization of processes or not. Everybody understands that it's a key competitive advantage, and the question is how fast can I go there, and how can I develop a competitive advantage against my competitors. So I think historically, when we look back in the last 30 years, we had the era of ERPs. So ERPs with optimization of internal processes. It was the era of SAP, Oracle, etc. And then after all internal processes, or most of the internal processes, production, finance, HR was done, companies turned towards optimizing relationship with third parties. So first with customers, and which was the era of CRM, which started 15, 20 years ago. And now what we see since 2010 is a big acceleration of transformation, digital transformation of everything related to the supplier. So contract management, supply chain optimization. So it's all about enhancing the collaboration with third parties, which may be customers, partners, or suppliers. So and again, it's not a question of should we do it. Every company understands they should do it, and fast.
Interesting.
Yeah. I would tend to agree with this. I would say, though, even in the areas where digitization has already been adopted, we keep optimizing, and we tend to overestimate how much things have been actually implemented and are really running perfectly optimized. So even like you mentioned, e-signatures, we assess that electronic signature is only 4% penetrated.
Yeah.
So even if it seems mainstream, it's still ton of paper. So even in markets that are seen as mature, I totally agree there's a ton of business to do more. And there's a few part in the enterprise that are probably behind. You think about legal departments, sometimes they're a little bit behind in terms of digitization. But even the places that have been digitized for years, there's tons of work to now bring more intelligence to the processes and optimize them.
Yeah, I agree as well. As I'm working in the area of optimization, so optimization for website and mobile application. I think that it's really today we have seen like a big shift. Like 10 years ago in the marketing technology, there were not a lot of companies. And today there is like maybe like 1,000, 2,000 of marketing technology that are helping digital companies. So we are in a big booming era of marketing technologies. And there is still, even in my era where it's already very digitalized, a lot of things to do. And I think that we are still at the beginning.
And really interesting is how there's still a lot of process that even if they're done with cloud software, it ends up being just Microsoft, right? Which is shouldn't be, people probably shouldn't use Excel for their CRM even, and a lot of people who have Salesforce and, guilty as charged, some Excel because, that's those are the old habits, right? So what do you think are some areas, guys, that are particularly by software or under-penetrated? In other words, where do you think the biggest opportunities are to bring modern software to the Please inspire our participants for where to start their next company.
Yeah, I mean, I think, as I said, there is already a lot of marketing technology. I think that in terms of HR, there has been a big booming in HR tech over the last years, and I think the big emergence in accounting and finance software. And I'm speaking for my company where we are using more and more accounting and maybe finance SaaS.
I would say that in the last 10 years, the software have focused a lot on automating transactions, automating tasks, removing paper. It's not done everywhere. There's still a lot of potential, but in terms of new software still to build, I think a lot of companies now expect tools to help them make the right decision and to provide them some predictive analysis, some more predictive data so that they can better anticipate changes and make the right decision. So it's not only just automating processes. It will continue. There's still a ton of business. DocuSign is a good example. But it's also, in a very fast-moving world, how can I anticipate trends better and faster than my competitors, and how AI, for instance, can help me understand patterns that I cannot understand manually. So this is a lot what we are developing right now for supply chain is a lot related to that, is how to interpret all the massive amount of data that we capture with our system, and how to interpret them, what do they mean, and as an executive of a company, what can I learn from this, and what kind of strategic decisions I should make or not based on what I learned from all this data.
Yeah, I would echo what you just said. I mean, obviously, I don't think there's a lot of areas in the enterprise that are super behind in terms of digitalization, but we're adding layers. And to your point, we automate it first. We bring more intelligence to the processes. I would say that if I were to look at areas to invest, definitely the way we integrate all of these applications, we're digitizing processes, but all these processes are intertwined, and there's still some challenge there. How do we make that more efficient when we digitize different areas of our business, and how do we make them work together? And I would raise one challenge that I see probably more outside of North America is everything that's related to data. And I'm seeing, I wouldn't say headwinds, but a lot of people potentially questioning, hey, how do I keep adopting the speed of SaaS while keeping full control of my data, making sure I know where the data stays, etc. So these are the areas, the questions I have often when we try to sell, especially when you're a US company, these questions are raised more and more.
Maybe, Sarah, one more big thing I think that we can anticipate. So far, the user interface has been pretty traditional with software, enterprise software. You go through a menu and you click on what you are looking for. So you go to a menu and sub-menu, etc. I think what is coming with a virtual assistant is a kind of a revolution that we can anticipate. We have a prototype right now of something called EVA, Integrated Virtual Assistant, where the way to interact with the software is completely different. You don't have to go through multiple menus, but you just have a search box where you enter your question in natural world. What are my top 10 suppliers in this category? And then you have the AI working behind the scene and giving you the response and bringing you exactly to the sub menu where you can get the response. And I think this is a trend we're going to see in the next 5 years. My anticipation is that the user experience is going to completely change with the emergence of those virtual assistant, whether by the voice, like the Alexa technology, or by a simple natural language search.
Yeah, that is a topic that investor we think a lot, the consumerization of B2B. Any user of large B2B CR has firsthand experience that the perfect from a UI UX perspective, and certainly it's the kind of experience UI UX you get from B2C self-service software. And so it's been really interesting to see, and the acquisition of this week is another example of how enterprise software realizes, because even if even purchasers may be a bit different at the day, the users have more and more power. Have you found that to be true in your domains? Very much still the procurement department or the head of the department decides and the users use, or spend a lot of time thinking, delighting the end user?
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely a very, very and more important criteria, the UI UX, and actually it drives the way companies choose their software. If I look back 10 or 15 years ago, it would be meetings with the CPO or the C-level and VPs who would see demos and would discuss with the software vendor and would make a decision. It's over. They don't do that anymore because they've been burned by promises or by software which were not very user-friendly and that were not adopted. There's a statistic that is very surprising. I read that for enterprise software, like 80% of companies regret their choice of software once they implemented it. So it means that they were somehow disappointed, and a lot is related to the user experience. So now the way they buy is completely different. Typically, they will shortlist one or two or three vendors, and they will do a POC, and they will ask for a sandbox to be used by a panel of users for 2 or 3 weeks. So you need to be prepared for that if you're a software vendor. It increases your cost of sales, basically. But if you have a good product and if you have good UI UX, this is actually going to help you to win against your competition.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I think this is really the era of the product-led growth rather than sales-led growth. Of course, it can be complementary, but this is something that we see as well. More and more demanding companies that have been disappointed and that want to do a POC almost every time, and especially for enterprise, even more than mid-market and SMB.
And I know, Sarah, you have a question about the sales practices, but it has a huge impact on sales organization. We are not anymore in the era of salespeople winning deals because they invite people to the restaurant or to a soccer game. that's not the point anymore. The point is to have a very solid solution consulting team that can support sales process and be able to provide very quickly a great POC and a great experience with a sample of users.
Same thing. I mean, we won't contradict each other too much here. I think also our personal life and work life have mixed tremendously. You know, we're bringing our own phone, our own devices. We're working from home, so we keep, you know, using apps in our personal life and in our work life together. And so that just raised the bar for B2B SaaS software. And so one of the consequences of that is, you know, one of the resources that is the most challenged and that makes so much for the success of a company is actually your designers, you know, and they become rare and difficult to find. But when you have a rock star designer, that changes the game for not just your product, but your entire company.
It is fascinating. I know that we were looking at potentially to the Google, and one of our, I think it was our CTO, was saying, well, but we all use whatever, I think it was Box actually. And then he actually looked, and in fact, half of the company was already using Google, but they were using it with their personal Gmail account, secure, but it was, and so that's the world that the enterprise leaders are now. So let's go to the sales question then. It's always, I think, a big scary thing for your entrepreneurs when they come to the US world is, they're so good at selling. They're raised to be salespeople. They buy differently, and so how have you found, what have been the challenges for you and maybe successes in enterprise sales, B2B sales in the US? And then, you know, maybe sub question is, are we still in the world of, you know, you produce white papers, you get in Gartner, and then you participate in large RFPs, elected kind of, and high touch, you know, invite you to Vegas kind of thing, or has it also changed years?
So we spend hours on this topic. There are so many parameters and angles, but if I can summarize a few things, enterprise sales is very complex because it's not one person selling to one person. It's you have to address multiple aspects with a very big team from the customer, from IT, from business side, from legal side, etc. And so if you don't put in front of the customer a team, you're not going to sell one salesperson. So right now we have some deals which are multi-million dollar ARR deals, so big deals, where I have 15 people involved, deeply involved in the sales process that can last a year. So it's very long, it's very complex, but it's very rewarding at the end when you win it, and very disappointing when you lose it because you spend a lot of time, invested a lot for nothing. So there's a lot of boxes to check, and I would say when you are a small company, you need to understand where you are stronger than your bigger competitors and where you are at risk. And there are things which are obvious. If you are small, when we arrived, we were 5 people and we were competing against SAP, right? So you must fight with your strengths, and you must try to mitigate your risks. So, for example, we are more agile than SAP. When you are just a small company, we can be more aggressive in terms of pricing. We can be more aggressive in terms of terms negotiation for legal. We can take more risks. At the opposite, we have some weaknesses. We don't have the references that SAP has. We don't have the footprint of the company. We cannot reassure the same way a customer about our long-term sustainability. So we don't have time today, but there's multiple things you can do to mitigate those risks, and that's what we did. We had to be very creative. But if you do it well, then the snowball starts to grow, and then you manage to reach critical mass where the typical risk point to work with a small French company disappear?
Yeah, so on my side, so I have a different type of customer because my ACV is from 20K per year to 400K per year. So it's not like a multi-million dollar deals. But coming to the US has helped me and us in general in the company to very well structure, I would say, the approach enterprise versus mid-market, whereas in Europe it was more a mix. So I would say that the US approach have helped us a lot to improve our processes. So we have learned a lot coming to the US how to have a very, very precise sales process. And as well, as Dan said, a lot about focus on target as well, because when you arrive in such a big market, if you try to chase everybody, you are going to die and to lose your energy. So it's very important as well to have a clear focus on, of course, your strengths and where you are good at. Compared to the big ones. So us, it's not SAP, it's more Adobe. And really where you can be good at, where you have good references as well in Europe, in which sector, which size of company, what kind of organization as well, for us, a digital organization, and to really be focused on specific accounts and to be very good at that. When we were in Europe. In Europe, I would say that we are chasing a bit larger, and in the US we are focusing more, and we are focusing as well much more our messaging, really based on value, which has to be very, very precise, and we have learned a lot as well in product marketing. I think this is something in Europe where we are not super good at. There are more and more people that are doing product marketing in Europe, but this is not our best asset, I would say. And in the US, you are finding people that are really good at product marketing and are at telling the story, which is something that we have learned from the US market and that we are now doing in Europe.
Yeah. Good point. On the sales standpoint, what I learned the most in the US was really that commercial machine, especially for the commercial segment, mid-market and major, as you pointed out. It's a machine. The market is so big that you can actually focus on a narrow portion of the market, and if you get a sales motion that is replicable, then you industrialize this machine, and that that is something that I learned very much in the US. The enterprise sales motion, and the self-service part, the extreme ends on the market. I mean, you will find nuance, but fundamentally, the enterprise movement for me, was not drastically different in the US and in France. But that ability to replicate, to industrialize the sales process for mid-market and major, for me, that was the most striking element. And I agree with you, obviously, but I think it's been said many times, the ability to tell a story, to pass a message using more modern ways, using more and more videos, but super high quality videos, drawings and all these things. We do that a little bit more in the US.
If I may, I will just add one advice to entrepreneurs who go to the US. Don't imagine that it's impossible and it's too hard and it's another world. In some ways, it's easier than in France. Again, we spent 10 years to develop our company in France, and we didn't reach $10 million. And we came to the US, we multiplied this by 10. Just because, in general, US people are faster to adopt new technology, and if they see a good product, good people who they trust to deliver this technology, you always have a lot of early adopters in the US who will try your technology and who will believe in you. Our first customer 10 years ago, when we were 4 people here, was Whirlpool. And so you can imagine Whirlpool, such big company, and they took the risk because they thought that our product was superior technology, and they believed in us, and they are still our customer today, and they say we made the right choice. So be ambitious. Even public sector, I would take another example. Public sector, I heard a lot, oh, you're a French company, you'll never sell to public sector in the US. That's not true. We are number one in public sector today. We have 7 states who use our technology. And we are, because we signed with Evalua Inc., which is a US company, with mostly US people in the company, we are perceived as a US company. We are not perceived as a French company at all.
Yeah, that is so true. Is that the concept of American is so flat that you quickly become one of them, and that's really. We have around the data point. So GDPR, one of them, data resident. Seems like that's something that, as I interpret it, comes up a lot because of the recent regulations. Is pretty a top space with selling SaaS in the US?
Well, I would say data residency in the US is less of a worry because most of the data is in the US, so it doesn't come. Now, the equivalent to GDPR laws have been passed in California. Yeah. So the data is becoming a topic also in the US. And then in Europe, obviously, it is significant data. Above and beyond GDPR, it's not just GDPR. Data residency is not in GDPR per se, but with the Cloud Act being repealed, there are questions, and I think there is a real stake at looking at solutions where you keep more control of your data or of what can be done with your data while you're still using that. So that is, I think, a key topic, and definitely an area where, as we see more and more data residency laws and more countries looking at that, that is an area that I think is an important focus.
Yeah, that's definitely a big topic for most of our customers. We see more and more demand from the customer to have data staying in the country where they operate. So which is an issue because we don't have data centers in every country, but we have some data centers in the US, in France, in UK, in Germany, in most of our big countries where we have a lot of customers. We need to have local data center or agreement with Azure or AWS who can guarantee the residency of data. This is very, very important and very strong requirement in most enterprise contracts right now.
Another question that came up is the question of integration. And that's often, I'm assuming, the reason behind some of the big acquisitions that Adobe and Microsoft and Salesforce have made is, I can take this tool and I can integrate it in my ecosystem. I've personally found that years after acquisitions, oftentimes the integration is still lacking. But do you find that is something that your customers ask you to integrate with the rest of the suites that they're using, with their HR software, with their ERP, with their CRM, whatever it is? Is that a big topic? And do you recommend that earlier stage investors really invest in integrations early?
Yeah, on my side, integration is almost a requirement at every deal. So for us, it's super important to be integrated with a lot of other best of breed solution to compete with the big ones. And that's why we've invest a lot in a partnership team to be sure that we integrate with, of course, so us, it can be CRM, DMP, CDP, etc. So more like a data platform to integrate with A/B testing. So we try, of course, to be integrated with them, technologically speaking, but as well to work with their sales to go and pitch the clients together. So this is really like a product team is working on it, but as well sales, marketing team. We have marketing partnership. We have a partnership manager. So this is a big investment for us to be sure that we are integrated because as a best of breed, it's like a must-have to have a lot of integration to offer the best to our clients.
I would say that that's a key point required from any customer, any project, and it becomes even a sales differentiator. If you come when you have a very strong integration capabilities, you're going to charge less to implement and less integration services to do it, so you become cheaper to implement than a competitor. I would say the next step is even to come with pre-configured integration and connectors. So that, for instance, we've developed a connector with DocuSign, and we resell DocuSign, and it's a plus. We already have it. We say it's faster. You have it. It works. It's already integrated with our system. So the strategy is really to come with not only your solution, but with an ecosystem of partners who can bring a lot of value to your solution, and that is available out of the box. So that's the strategy. Our strategy now is to develop pre-configured connectors with the most interesting add-ons, product add-ons or partners, like DocuSign is one of them.
The only thing I would add is 100% agree that the strategy with connectors and integration is though something that brings a lot of second level question in terms of maintainability of all these connectors, because all the products will evolve, customization of the process, and is your target market someone that will say, hey, I will take the ecosystem as it is and I will bend my process to fit the way it's been done, or will it be an enterprise customer that will want to customize everything? So the way you implement this ecosystem play and this integration play has a lot of finesse to it. And so again, as well as a designer, a great architect to define the structure of that is important.
Awesome. Maybe one last question. With a resource to recommend to our participants in terms of either a book or newsletter, a group that where you in terms of how to enter the US as a B2B player, it would be great if you could share it.
Yes, so I'm sorry, Sarah, I don't have a specific group. What I have done is more to follow on LinkedIn and on Twitter CEO of tech company that I admire. It's already a lot of content. So big companies, but as well a smaller company on LinkedIn that where I admire, for example, the marketing or the sales. So I take my inspiration more in that than in specific. Of course, I listen a lot of podcasts and I read a lot of books, but I take my daily inspiration, I would say, more in following people, CEO of tech companies that inspire me. Yeah.
I would recommend a blog from one of my former boss that's been a CMO, a CEO, and is now an advisor and consultant. It's called Kell Blog, Kell blog, and it's always very well thought and a lot of common sense, but also a lot of intellect in the blog. So I would recommend it.
Yeah, myself, I found fascinating the biography of Elon Musk. So I don't recognize myself in his style of management, which I think is very tough and a lot of lack of empathy. But I respect a lot his level of ambition and trying to push the limits of the possible and to challenge his internal team to do the impossible and faster than the market and the competition. So inspiring in many areas, even if we could discuss a lot around his management style, which I don't think is is great for internal people, but it is achieving a lot.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much to the three of you. It's been great to chat, and I think we're on to the next panel screen. So thanks for being here, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.